another thing I want to talk about, though, is equity and access, and they're kind of the different parts of the same coin, but I want to start off talking about equity specifically. And I have a few examples to illustrate this. One of them being that, oftentimes we think that tech is colorblind, but really it's far from that. There's a 2021 Pew study that showed that while 80% of white adults have broadband internet at home, only 65% of Hispanic adults do. And this is obviously a pretty big gap that would disproportionately affect our Hispanic students if we're expecting them to be using some sort of cloud-based program from home. If we think that that's going to be something that's a good point of access, we need to keep that in mind. Similarly, broadband access is very different across education levels. And so the same study showed that, that this will disproportionately affect first-generation students, where only 59% of the adults who have no college experience have broadband at home versus 94% of adult graduates who do. And so that's a huge gap right there. And then this also comes into play when we're talking about the devices that people own. And so the gaps are larger when we're looking at desktops and laptops. So 80% of white adults versus 67% of Hispanic adults. But if we look at the smartphones and tablets, then that really gets diminished. It's pretty even across. And so students are going to be far more likely to be able to complete projects that only require a phone or a tablet, or we can have those expectations that they might be able to do an assignment that could use the native apps that are built into the phone, like the voice memo for an audio project or something like that. And then there's other pieces of access as well, but a lot of these also still have an equity component. And so, so some of the main things that have come up that I've noticed is on and off campus access. So if the software is only accessible on campus, we need to keep in mind that a disruption can change this with little or no notice, and which was painfully obvious when COVID started, right? And then if off-campus access is only available, then we need to think about that home broadband and device ownership, which definitely has that equity component to it. And then is there software available only on certain types of devices? Can it be accessed as a cloud service and run on a variety of devices? Is there an option for offline access so the work can be done without an internet connection? All of these pieces, go back to just those few simple illustrations of how equity plays a really important part in these decisions that we're making.